Hello, and welcome to Resistance Gardening. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about what that means to me. There was this meme going around recently that said, I don't think we're going to be able to community garden our way out of this one. And I want to talk about why that's both true and not true. But first, let me introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Joby Hawthorne Brown, aka the Feral Plant Hag here at Rootcraft. And I went to college for 6 years to study biology and herbalism so that you don't have to. I first opened my online herbal apothecary back in 2011, and now I tend a small regenerative herb farm here in Oregon's Willamette Valley, and I'm an herbal educator who is known for sharing grounded information through an accessible and anti-capitalist lens without expecting you to live perfectly clean or all natural or forego modern advancements like vaccinations. So that meme wasn't wrong in the sense that yeah, clearly gardening is not the only thing that we have to do in order to stand up against fascism. Because unfortunately, things just aren't looking like they're going to blow over if we can just tough it out. But that said, gardening absolutely is an act of resistance.
To use it as a tool to empower us to stop giving money to corporations and industries that actively lobby for policies against our best interests, who exploit and underpay workers, who prioritize profits over planetary survival. This isn't a fight between left and right. This is a fight between all of us and the inconceivably wealthy who exploit us. So if you're already here, I don't think I need to go into painful detail to convince you that the systems put in place to provide for us, that we pay for with our tax dollars, are actively failing us by design. We're seeing the mass deportations of food service workers and agricultural workers. We're hearing about the millions of poultry that are being culled due to infectious disease. We're seeing the inventory and the prices in the grocery stores reflecting this. So no, of course gardening isn't the only thing that we can do to resist. But while these national systems are actively failing us, our communities are not. So supporting each other, standing up for each other, nourishing each other, it has to be a part of it at the very least. When we all witnessed in real time the hurricanes that devastated North Carolina and the wildfires that ravaged Los Angeles, who did we see with boots on the ground? We saw neighbors helping neighbors. We saw pack mules carrying medications to folks who had roads that were washed out. We saw caravans of firefighters from neighboring regions pouring in to help. We saw local restaurants and food trucks feed people. We saw that we survive because of each other, not because of these systems. So for that very reason, I am not here to try and scare you into self-sufficiency gardening. There are plenty of other people that you can listen to if you're looking for an every man for himself mindset. What I want to talk about is shifting away from that self-sufficiency mindset when we talk about growing food and more into a food sovereignty mindset. When we talk about preparedness, it is so easy to fall into a hyper-individualist mindset, especially if we haven't had a lot of help ourselves. It's kind of natural to start to think, well, I'm just going to produce everything that I need on my own without anybody else and screw everybody else. And sure, while we can do so much on our own and it can feel really empowering to do so, why should we have to do all of it? Humans weren't designed to do all of it on our own. Why should every single household be spending their limited time and energy, or what's left of it, after earning an income and taking care of basic living tasks? Why should we all be spending whatever energy is left on building a chicken coop, on hauling feed, on cleaning up poop every day, just so that we can have eggs for ourselves and plant an orchard that needs pruning and pest control, and tend to the bees for the honey and wax supply and pollination, and grow the medicinal herbs, make the tinctures, make the salves, make all the body care, and buy a tractor, and milk the goats, and every single household doing all of this individually? It doesn't make sense. If you enjoy these things and you have the means to do them, by all means do so. But from a practical standpoint, it's not the most efficient use of our resources. Ask me how I know. I'm out here doing it without a husband, without kids, without farm workers. It literally takes all of my time and energy, and I've had to really reel in my expectations and deal with burnout. But what if we pooled our resources with our friends and neighbors? One person says, okay, I'll be the one to raise chickens so that we all have eggs. Someone else says, okay, I'll make the balms and the salves and the tinctures since I really enjoy that. Someone else might have more space and say, all right, I'll grow some fruit trees and the veggies. Then if you want, you can get together and do the cooking and the canning and the what have you. This is community. I know that my neighbor has so many figs every year that they're giving them to the whole neighborhood, and there's so many that even the neighbors are pawning them off on their friends and family. So because of this, I know I don't need to put my time and energy into planting and taking care of figs. There's also someone just down the road who sells honey from their small apiary. So I'm not going to try and make the time to learn how to become a beekeeper because that honestly doesn't really interest me that much. I thought it did. I bought all the beekeeping supplies and then I sold it all because it's just too much to take on when I'm not really into it. But there is somebody right over there who is really into it. But what I did do is look around and say, none of my neighbors besides me really actually have chickens, which is surprising. And since I'm already raising chickens because I enjoy them and I've been doing it for a long time and it's really manageable for me, what I can do is just add a few more into the flock, and then I have an abundance of eggs to share without much more input on my part. The point is, if everyone has their thing, then we don't all have to be doing all of the things. Now, this doesn't have to be with your neighbors. It's great if it is, but every living situation is going to be different. If you're in a city, that's going to be a lot different than if you're in the country, which is going to be a lot different than if you're in the suburbs. So this can just be with your friends and family. They are your community. I think a lot of times we hear the word community and we think strangers, and that's scary. And yeah, some might start off that way, but ultimately we're talking about your people. If they're not your people yet, make them your people. So the main takeaway is this: do what is feasible and enjoyable for you. Otherwise, this endeavor will not be sustainable. I'm going to share with you a dozen low-maintenance, multi-purpose plants that you can add to your garden to save time, space, and energy by using them in different ways for different purposes. But I'm not going to sit here and say you have to grow all of these plants right now all by yourself. And trust me, it's going to be tempting to, because it starts off so fun and empowering and plants are so cool. But just pace yourself so that you don't burn yourself out or start to resent it. Local farms, CSAs, and farmers markets exist for a reason. If you have them in your area and are in a financial position to, which I know not everybody has access to that, but if you do, please take advantage of them and support them. That's the only way that they can survive and make it so that we all don't have to keep doing all the things ourselves. Use your resources wisely and leave room for rest and joy. One last thing I want to add along those lines is that gardening is one of the best things that we can do for our mental health. You're spiraling, overwhelmed, pissed off, lonely. Find a therapist first if you can, please. But also, go dig your hands in the dirt. Take your frustration out on some invasive weeds. Smile at a weird bug. Plant some seeds with the hope that there will be a bloom someday, even though we know that day isn't today. Tend to something greater than yourself. Let the process literally ground you. Let it give you something to look forward to. Let a bee and a flower offer you joy. I know it's really easy to lose sight of this because we get so caught up in wanting to have the most bountiful harvests and these pantries that are loaded with canned goods and all the things we could ever want or need. But anyone who gardens knows that is not guaranteed, and the process can be just as nourishing if you allow it to be. Because finding joy in the face of adversity is resistance. Stopping to rest when we're supposed to be too exhausted to notice what's going on around us is resistance. Is it the only resistance? Of course not. But we do what is feasible for us and what is within our means and what makes sense. And we can't fight if we let them wear us down. Okay, all that said, I will get off my soapbox now. I hope you find the information throughout this course beneficial and empowering. A lot of this information is similar to what's in my herbal intensive programs. So if you're interested in learning about more plants like these, more preservation methods, and the science behind how they work in the body, check out my herbal intensive. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks for watching.